Finally, the moment a couple of you have been waiting for.
It's all like bing bong, Jack.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Duval and St. Johns County. The show for Jag fans by Jag fans.
You can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show.
Here are your hosts, Franklin and Michael how you say it? DeZoba. Welcome to the Jaggernaut Podcast. Welcome back to another amazing adventure into Jaguar fandom. Your brothers DeZoba here, Frank and Mike, are going to be talking to each other and you, hopefully, whoever's out there listening.
Maybe don't make me mad.
We're going to be discussing.
Throw that out there. Go ahead and start.
I was just jumping right into the meat.
Yeah, that's what I do.
So last time we discussed the defense and we wanted to take a crack at the offense. And it's going to be maybe, I hope it's not a haphazard discussion, but we're going to give it a shot to try to figure this thing out. We don't, who knows what we're supposed to expect. I don't think anybody does. And the way that I was kind of looking at it was, well, Doug Pederson's calling the plays. We know that he's the head coach, and his most successful stint as head coach with his offensive philosophy was the 2017 Eagles, where they won the Super Bowl. So my thought process was to start with that. You know, that sounds like our ceiling, and then we can kind of figure how close we get to that, you know, and who matches up to.
The Super Bowl's our ceiling.
Well, I didn't mean the Super Bowl. I meant
that's what it sounded like to me.
Philosophy, the philosophic, the success of the philosophy. It now, because my point on that, it was my assumption was a lot of things have to go right for you to win the Super Bowl, and I think even when we look at the stats, I think we'll see they were not quite the juggernaut, I expected to see, considering they won the Super Bowl. But so let me share my screen. Let's see.
I think you just like sharing your screen now. I think once you figured out how to do it, it's all downhill from here.
Yeah, that's been, well, that's you got to give the people information. That's the way I'm looking at it. All right, so, and brother, take a look and tell me if so. First of all, I mean, when philosophically, I don't know what your thoughts were in regards to Doug Pederson with his offense, the way he calls it. Right off the bat, the thing that I do notice about his offense was he loves two tight ends. He loves RPO. And that in a way was similar to what we ran last year.
No, I mean, I don't honestly think, I don't know what you saw, but I didn't see a whole lot of like press two tight end sets. I mean, yeah, every now and again, Manhurts was in on one side, or you had Dan Arnold in on the other side. I'm like, but it wasn't primary. It was just here or there. And I think a lot of times that's where me and you are going to differ on this. You think that you believe that it's Doug Pederson's system, and that he's one of those coaches where it's my system, not the players, and my system's great, and that's what we're going to follow. I wanted somebody from Andy Reid's tree specifically because that's not what they tend to do. They tend to look at what they have and said, what works best here? And then they start to, because that's what Andy Reid does as a coach. That's why I wanted a coach from Andy Reid's tree. That's what Doug Pederson is. While it worked for him in Philly and he got a Super Bowl out of it, I'm honestly, if it works here, sweet. But if it's the same stuff, well, the NFL's already saw that. We're not the same team. We don't have the same players. It's not 2017. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's just going to be more of welcome to Duval dumpster fire. So, I mean, I think maybe that's where we have this disconnect, because you keep saying, Doug Peterson's going to run his system. It's going to run his system. How many times do we make fun of coaches who bounce around the league from one team to another team because they believe it's their system?
Well, that's a fair point. So I'm not going to, my hope is you're right, that he will adjust his system to match our players, but going in, he does have a concept that he wants to run. I mean, I think every coach has that. It's about the flexibility
it's called
and the ability
winning.
to adapt.
It's called winning. That's our philosophy. We win. All right,
Well,
brother, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
And
but
start
here's
to
the
explain
thing.
your graph.
Here's the thing. If you go back and you watch Philly, what they run is a lot of emphasis on the tight end and RPO.
I can see that.
And
Okay.
so that's my expectation. Now, if you tell me that the 2022 Jaguars are going to come out power I, because that's what Pederson sees, I'm going to say, no, that's not happening. So, because one, I don't think that's what he'll see. And two, he's coming in with the concept of this is what the league is doing now.
This
It's
is
not so
Sparta.
it's not so much his concept, it's the league has evolved, he's evolving with it, and he probably thinks our players can do it. So yes, there's going to be tweaking and things to that nature. Please, that's what a good coach does. So I'm with you on that. So, and that's the conversation, right? It's like, what differences will there be? And I think when that when we in order to figure that out, so you come in with the philosophy, and then you're like, okay, what do you have to work with? And so to that point, what I've got here, the very first thing, you got to start with the quarterbacks. And so that championship team was Carson Wentz for the most part. That was an MVP season he was having until he got hurt. And then obviously Nick Foles carried him into the Super Bowl and won it. And if you look here, it's so there's some interesting things to point out. First of all, obviously Lawrence has some improving to do here. The question with Lawrence to me is this. This is Lawrence's second year. The stats that we're looking at, that's Wentz's second year. Now, is it a corollary with one another? In other words, I think most people still believe in Lawrence and therefore expect a jump. Is it reasonable to expect similar numbers to what we saw in Carson Wentz in 2017, which is to say, so he had 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in 13 games. So I think he was on his way to somewhere around 37, 38, closing in on 40 touchdowns and under 10 interceptions. And maybe closing in on 4,000 yards. I think it's possible for Lawrence to do that. The one thing I see there is the efficiency. Wentz was extremely efficient. And the question is it going to take 2 years under Pederson to get that efficiency, to get those type of numbers? Or are we looking at a similar scenario just because Carson Wentz's second year and this is now Trevor Lawrence's second year? So expectation is the key question at this point. If we're implementing Pederson's offense, which apparently worked for Carson in his second year, might we expect, is it reasonable to expect something similar in regards to stats for Lawrence, not winning the Super Bowl, but just statistics in the regular season?
Well, I think if Lawrence is what I believe he is, what I thought he would be, he should make a leap. Should he if he plays all 17 games, if he's in all 17 games, yeah, he should kill these stats. He should beat every one of these stats. That's my thinking. That's my take. Now,
In fairness, this is 13 games for wins,
yeah,
so you got to kind of look at it a little differently. It's not a direct comparison.
yeah, it's not a direct comparison, but I believe I don't see a reason. I think we got when I looked at the 2017 roster for the Eagles, not counting defense, just looking at the offense, and I was comparing the only place I could legitimately make an argument, and granted, based off the stats, there's not much of an argument that we are actually better than they were, is at quarterback.
Okay. So I like that take, and I don't think it's unreasonable. Here's one thing to throw out, and I'm going to slide down here because I've got this graph. This was Trevor Lawrence's stats last year. I've said this in our private conversations before. I went back to look at the stats because as I watched last year, and obviously there was a lot of craziness going on. One of the things that frustrated me the most was in the RPO. It seemed to me, and it's always difficult to tell, it seemed to me that they were hindering Lawrence from actually taking the ball. Now, in an RPO, you don't want your quarterback to run with the ball much, but it felt like he was handing the ball off regardless. In other words, it looked like there was an option, but there really was no option. It was a handoff in an RPO set, which I don't like that. If you're going to do RPO, you need to have the O. It's got to be in there. That's the whole point of it. Now you don't know for sure, but I felt like that when I watched it. And if you go back and you look, the games that, for the most part, where Lawrence had more, let's say 6 or more rushes, basically what you had was success in regards, you had a higher, either we won or we scored in the 20s. We weren't a high scoring team. That was great for us. So there was a correlation. I did notice that. And so my thought is if Pederson comes in and runs that more efficiently, and I don't see why there was a struggle last year, apart from the fact that the people that were running the system, because Lawrence ran RPO well in Clemson.
That's easy. The whole problem is Urban Meyer. You have James Robinson, and you bench James Robinson for Carlos Hyde. I don't need to say anything else. Carlos Hyde literally gave up, I think it was 3 sacks in the first 3 games, all for a rookie quarterback. Why? Because Urban Meyer felt something. I don't know. I don't know why you don't roll into the season running James Robinson. I don't. Well, but we didn't. So,
and here's it's a good segue into the next statistic comparison here. So the Eagles running back squad in 2017 was LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi, and Corey Clement. Not a bad running back squad. Pretty good. In fact, if you look at Jay Ajayi, and I believe he got hurt there, and then it was Blount and Clement to end the season, if I'm not mistaken. Look at his average was 5.8 per carry, which is pretty tremendous there. But look at our boy Hyde's average, 3.5. So yeah, that backs up your point. Why was he out there? First of all, he's clearly he was on his last leg when he was here the first time he was on the Jags.
I agree. He had no business being here. Yeah. That was an Urban Meyer FU Jacksonville. So, I mean, because I don't know. It was so stupid. You can't really say anything about it.
And that running backs become more efficient the more you use them, usually. And sporadic use for Robinson last year, you're not going to tell me did not hinder him. I'm a big fan of James Robinson. I think the guy's got Emmitt Smith type. He looks like Emmitt Smith to me. He's low, he's stocky, his vision's great. He's not super fast, but I mean, he gives everything.
That's his problem, is that he's never going to be a home run threat. He'll never.
He doesn't need to be, though.
He'll never outrun you.
Great running back. And it is perfect because in a certain way, I suppose, because obviously Travis Etienne's coming in, and who knows how that will play into it. So to that point, LeGarrette Blount versus James Robinson. If James Robinson's healthy, James Robinson all day. And then Travis Etienne comes in. In comparison, he's sort of your Corey Clement guy.
Right, but you're forgetting Jay Ajayi. So you put LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi versus James Robinson.
Okay,
And it's not James Robinson all day. A healthy Jay Ajayi and a healthy LeGarrette Blount, that's a formidable 1-2 thunder or lightning concept. And then you have basically Corey Clement, who is smaller and much more faster, and a very, very versatile third down back. Oh, and let's not forget the guy who's not even listed on here, named Darren Sproles.
Was he there?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Well, I'm not trying to necessarily equate them at this point, only to give you an idea about usage. I think that's the best way to kind of look at it. And I think that if Pederson is the chef, I feel like the ingredients he used to have a successful Super Bowl run in regards to running backs are very maybe not comparable, but very good, because Travis Etienne may be better than all of those guys that were on the Eagles. We don't know. Who knows how it translates?
I will say that if they come back fully healthy, they're different running backs. It's a different running back group, but they can be just as successful, if not maybe more successful.
I wonder if Pederson's ever used two running backs in the same set before.
I don't know.
Because I've always wondered that. You got two running backs that are so different.
I want to say that I did see, it was rare, and it was one of those sort of oddity plays where you would see Darren Sproles and Clement in the same backfield.
Okay. I wouldn't mind seeing some razzle dazzle. Of course,
we've said that.
Pull that out.
Yeah, but we've said that with Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones.
I know, man.
And we never saw hardly any of it.
That would have been a beautiful thing if they'd have ran at least sometimes, just every now and again, end zones, like put red zone offense, man. To me, Maurice Jones-Drew and Fred Taylor in the backfield on red zone offense, I think they missed out big time on doing that. All right, so here's the thing about to me that is sort of pivotal for Pederson, sort of defines Pederson. It's tight end work. As I watch,
I can agree with that, but we don't have Zach Ertz.
And I agree with that. Of course, we don't have Zach Ertz, but I wonder, is it possible with Evan Ingram and Dan Arnold, who looked really good? I mean, if you look, Dan Arnold's average was better than Ertz's. Now, that's just statistics. This is where statistics, don't tell the whole truth. Ertz had 8 touchdowns to Dan Arnold's 0. So that's a big thing there, So I think, again, there's potential in the tight end room.
There is
work the system that I saw Philly use. I think those two guys have the capability, the physical ability to do it.
Maybe. I mean, I don't see a reason why not. I'm not as down on Dan Arnold. I thought he could have done, again, I'm not going to give him a mulligan because they're Urban Meyer, but Urban Meyer definitely, I think, misused certain players. Dan Arnold might have been one. The offense they were running was, I don't know, atrocious maybe. I think you did us a disservice by putting James O'Shaughnessy here and not Evan Ingram.
I didn't mean to. I'm that's what happened last year. I'm just pulling the stats.
Okay.
But if you look, James O'Shaughnessy compares very well to Trey Burton, which I think more or less shows that it was the Zach Ertz show more than anything.
Right. Another thing I'm going to point out to you is the yak yards. Yards after catch. That's a big thing. So
yeah, and it'd be interesting to go and look at Evan Ingram's numbers with New York. to kind of get a feel? Are there because I think the way to look at this is we're not trying to compare Dan Arnold to Zach Ertz. I think we're trying to compare Dan Arnold and Evan Ingram to Zach Ertz. So can you get out of those two guys what you got out of the one? Because Trey Burton, those type of numbers there, we could probably get out of Luke Farrell and Manhertz. Right. I mean, that's not great statistics to me. So it was really just the efficiency and the quality of Zach Ertz and that system that made that go. And I will say this in regards to the Philly system, the thing I did notice that it was different formation wise. It looked very similar to what apparently was attempted to be run here. But in regards to scheme and routes, it just looked totally different. Like they ran so many of these like sideways plays last year in Jacksonville, these throwing the ball 2 yards upfield, all that stuff I complained about all year. I didn't see a lot of that with Philly. When they throw the ball, it's downfield. There's yards, there's crossing routes where you're expected to try to get yak. But I mean, they're giving it to you. And don't get me, I'm not talking about, let me say this. I think I know where you're going. They did do some screens and stuff, but they were worked. It wasn't just getting clobbered as soon as you get the ball, which is what happened here in Jacksonville. So there was efficiency going on.
Yep, I can agree. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about those receivers behind the line of scrimmage catching the ball and getting tackled.
Yeah,
and
the bubble screens. The bubble screens where we absolutely had no speed on offense. So the defense had no fear of you going over top. So they could clearly they weren't scared of your bubble screens. I mean,
it's funny. I'm okay with throwing to Laviska Shenault and Christian Kirk every now and again, doing that, putting some blockers out there like Manhertz and like Marvin Jones, and throwing that quick little, go out there and get me 6 yards, because they should be able to get you 6 yards. So I'm okay with that.
Take a look.
Yeah, but I think we did it way too much.
So if you see here the second, and it's interesting when you look back at the stats, because I was a little shocked, to be honest, that Laviska was our most efficient catcher next. I mean, I knew Jones was, but the second one was Laviska. And look at the yak yardage there, 389. And
yeah. Yeah, if he gets paired up against cornerbacks, he wins. That's what he's a running back. He's a running back in a receiver's body for the most part. That's where he wins, is being matched up. The problem where he loses, imagine if he didn't have those 13 drops.
Yeah.
3 were for touchdowns. Like legitimately, 2 were those bubble screens we're talking about, where he was open.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. These guys screwed themselves. So yes, if they get some confidence, if they believe that they can do this, we could come out and we can be a decent team. But hopefully from walking through this and looking, like, who's our Alshon Jeffries? At the time in 2017, I would argue that he was better than Marvin Jones.
Yeah, you would think so. But if you look statistically, other than
TDs,
per carry average and touchdowns, which are big,
yeah.
And again, what you're going to see here is a mark of efficiency. So you do have some stats here accrued by Jones. And to me, what you're seeing with the average and the touchdowns is you're seeing they're efficient. When they're catching the ball, it's an efficient yardage gain. When he's catching the ball, he's got a shot at a touchdown. That's not what we were seeing with Jacksonville last year. So that's the hope, is that that efficiency that we're looking for is there. And if it is, then to go along with the, some of the similar statistics that you may see, you'll see those other statistics creep up. And that's the difference between a good team and a bad team. I don't think Marvin Jones Laviska Shenault, and Christian Kirk. I think that pairs, I like that. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. We wanted another receiver, but going into it, if you look at what he dealt with in Philly, these guys aren't necessarily jumping off the page at me.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So they're not the number one. Zach Ertz is the number one. We don't have a Zach Ertz. So
Right.
somebody's going to step up.
That's
now,
true.
Who is it? Marvin Jones. I think Marvin Jones, it was our best wide receiver, and looking at it, he's our best wide receiver again, which scares the shit out of me. Because that means we paid all this money to Christian Kirk, and I don't think he's going to be number one.
I do. I actually do. In listening to Press Taylor talk, he said specifically they were going to line Christian Kirk up all over the place, which tells me they are going to get him the ball in favorable matchups. He said, because my expectation for Kirk, just kind of based on what I feel like they ran in Arizona and what he looks like body type wise, is he's our slot, and we paid a ton of money for a slot.
That's correct.
But that's not what they're saying. We'll see what happens, but
remember, they're already walking back sacks on our number one pick.
I knew they were going to do that, but going in, they had. I don't want to get on defense. Sorry, you're trying to derail me.
I'm trying to tell you that's their MO.
Yeah, I know, and it's coach speak, and I get that, but this spoke a little bit more specific than I'm used to hearing. In other words, that he gave us what his plan is. He said specifically, we targeted this guy because we know we can put him all over the place, including X. So that tells me their game plan is to have such a versatile wide receiver to go in a mismatch on the sides and maybe in the slot, and obviously in the slot as well. It depending upon the team. So whatever offensive philosophy they have, that's one of the key cogs in it, is this concept of being able to threaten the defense with this guy who they feel like that can line up in either of the three wide receiver positions whenever they need him to. So they have something in mind. We'll see how that works out. And so, I mean, there's not too much more I think I can say in regards to that point. What about this? As I was going through the stats, and like I said, I brought up Laviska. Nobody's at this, very few, if any, are willing to say Trevor Lawrence is a bust. Yet his season last year was a very bad season. And so was Laviska's. It seems interesting to me that people are of the mindset that Laviska might not make the team, but Lawrence is still one of the greatest prospects and expectations through the roof. I'm just curious, and it's not that I don't understand that. I guess I'm questioning the drastic difference between the two. In other words, should we have should we expect a bit more out of Laviska? Is it unreasonable to think that he could be in the plans? I mean, why would he looks.
So the people who, and I'm not in that camp. If now here's the deal. I think when we got Christian Kirk, I thought that opened the door to potentially trading Laviska. Two slot
We're
guys.
saying that.
Two slot guys, right? If we don't trade Laviska, he's playing on this team because he's better. He's better than who's the guy? Laquan Treadwell. I think he's better.
Right. Everybody's saying Laquan Treadwell's making the team, and
Laviska,
I don't. Well, not everybody's saying that, but it feels like people have locked Treadwell in, kind of in that last wide receiver slot, and they're like, "Well, will Laviska make the team?"
So the difference. Let me go back to you. The difference between the two is that I think you can see Trevor ascending. I think he has it in them. What you saw, will LaVisca ever be a number one?
No.
Will Trevor ever be a number one? Maybe. At this point, if you look at the
right.
stats, you got to say maybe.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe.
So there's a big difference right there.
Yeah.
2, Trevor Lawrence they both had to face adversity because of their coaching, but Trevor Lawrence had more of it because you are the on-field general. You have to tell people where to go. You have to be on time. You have to deliver the ball. You have so much more to do. And I think he did a lot more right than he did wrong. Yeah, he had horrible games. He threw ugly passes. LaVisca, you just had to catch the ball. You had to line up in the right place and catch the ball, both of which you had trouble with last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, once you got the ball, you ran with it, sweet. But if you don't have the ball, nobody cares.
Well, Grant, everything you said's exactly correct. And so I do understand the idea that if LaVisca was cut, that wouldn't be a surprise necessarily. I'm just thinking that we probably have a worse reputation attached to this guy than what is reasonable considering everything that happened last year.
I agree.
If we're assuming that was so bad, it took this generational prospect we all still believe is the case and made him look so bad. I'm just curious, couldn't it have made LaVisca bad as well? To some extent, your point's fair. It's going to be worse on Trevor, especially when he does give you the ball and then you drop it. So the jugs machine and things like that, that's not Urban Meyer's fault. So I'm granting that part, but everything, the chemistry, all of this stuff, the efficiency in the routes, the timings, he's a rookie quarterback regardless. So there's that there's that chemistry that needs to be created to start with. And you had all this stuff. It does affect receivers. Now, in fairness, it didn't appear to affect Jones like it did everybody else. Maybe that's just because he's the veteran.
He's an old veteran guy. Yeah.
So, but one more year with LaVisca, I'm just saying, would it surprise you?
Yeah.
Especially if we're looking at a team where.
Would it surprise me what? If he comes out and is the dominant receiver on this team?
No. That would surprise me. That would surprise me.
Would it surprise me if he made the team?
No. I'm not going. Would it surprise you if he's the third wide receiver with a bullet? Like, in other words.
Yeah, that would.
It would? Okay.
It would. It's close. It's close. I have him between 3 and 5 or 3 and 6. I think he's going to get slotted somewhere in there based off of what he does in training camp. So I believe he very well could be the third best, but I also believe he could be the 6th.
Let me ask it this way. Philosophically, when you have a coach who runs a team where he has absolutely no problem with the tight end being the number 1 wide receiver, does it become more likely then that a receiver who is definitely not an X receiver. I don't imagine LaVisca ever being that because he just doesn't have that speed. But doesn't he have tight end speed? I mean, if he's got hands, he's not as big, but he's big.
No.
Powerful.
You could definitely, if you planned it right and LaVisca caught the ball and ran it correctly or lined up right, you could plan an offense around LaVisca Chenault. I believe you could.
That's what I'm saying.
So could he? Yes. Doug Pederson, I think, very well could do that. Will he? I don't know. I think it's very telling that they're asking LaVisca to field punts in minicamp.
Yeah.
Because that's telling me that in order to make the team, you're probably going to be the 5th best wide receiver, which means you're not going to see the field a ton. So you make your damage in special teams.
So
that's where you earn your money.
Give me the wide receivers. Kirk is 1.
Right. Marvin
And
Jones is
Jones.
2. Yep. I got Zay Jones on the outside simply because we have nobody else. I like Agnew, but Agnew's small and fast, and then that's Treadwell. So I don't know. I don't have Treadwell. I mean, I got Treadwell on the bubble, but because
He
basically
should be on the bubble.
I have Jones, Kirk, Zay Jones, Chenault. I got Jamal Agnew. I put my guy in Jeff Cotton. I want to see Jeff Cotton.
Now we're getting to it. Now we're getting to it. Hey, man, they just increased the practice squad, man.
Yeah, I like Jeff Cotton. I thought he was
Need
one of
jars
the
on the
guys.
shelf.
I thought he was one of the guys that were beating the other scrubs.
And he's
That's-
also a guy you can hide too.
So
You
and
can't put some of the other guys on there.
and he's big. Like he's an outside receiver. So that's the only thing that Treadwell has going for him is that he fits the outside mold. That's
Yeah.
it. Treadwell, if I'm not mistaken, dropped almost just as many as LaVisca. So if we're railing against LaVisca for drops, we got to get on Treadwell's ass for it too.
Well, Treadwell had the advantage of sucking so bad early on that when he started actually looking like the rest of the receivers, everybody started making a big deal about it.
Yeah.
Whereas Jones was consistent throughout. He had his issues here and there, but that's just to be expected. You're never going to play a perfect game. He was definitely the most consistent. So, to me, as I just started digesting the offense, I'm like, LaVisca's making the team. He's just making the team. First of all, Treadwell goes before LaVisca for me. And it's not even close.
I agree.
And
no, yeah, I agree with you. I think LaVisca wins a job over Treadwell. I probably would put it a little closer than you, but I would definitely give it to Chenault. In the end, man, like I said, the only reason I think Treadwell sticks around is just because he's an outside guy. But if LaVisca can do punts, even decent, you ain't got to be great. You just got to, again, catch the ball. Just catch the ball. That's it. Just catch the ball. Understand that. If you can just do that, I think you make this squad, and I think you make it easy. Because now, if I'm the GM, I'm waiting, and I may try to trade him. I don't think you cut Chenault.
I don't even think you trade him. It's funny too, because I'm surprised, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if a team hasn't already contacted the Jags. Like we think on the outside that he's trade bait, and he may be, but if I'm the Jags, I want something for LaVisca, because especially in this Debo Sanders climate where Samuels, everybody's looking for the next Debo. And you got somebody here who he's not as fast, obviously, but he kind of has that going on.
I agree,
like
but that's
that,
just
man.
that's just it. If somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, we'll give you a first rounder for Chenault because he's 1/5 of Debo Samuel, and that's what we want," I'd do that, because Debo's Debo. I don't know. You can't tell me there's a lot of other Debo Samuels out there.
It depends on how you feel about LaVisca. 1 year, and we're throwing the guy to the wolves, and Trevor still hung the moon.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, I don't know. Let's give.
I mean, I agree. The problem is that I'm putting a lot of what he went through on being a rookie QB, which affects every rookie QB for the most part, and a horrible coach. And I'm putting what's going on with LaVisca, a horrible coach, and a lot of personal drops.
Yeah, no, that's fair. The drops are the issue for sure.
And he lined up wrong multiple times.
So we've got to wrap it up. Any last thoughts that you want to kind of get in on the offense, or you think we covered everything?
I think we covered almost everything. I think hopefully we'll be all right. I think if we give Lawrence 4 to 5 seconds to throw the ball, we do some RPOs, we'll come out much better.
Who's winning the right tackle job?
Ben Barch.
Right tackle?
Right tackle. I got Walker Little in there. I have Javon Taylor as our swing tackle.
I could see that happening too. Yeah,
so
I think that's the way it's going to go down.
Javon Taylor had 3 years already. He's gotten worse.
Yep. I agree. All right. I think
All right,
that'll do
later.
it.
Duval.
Duval.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.